Colleen and welcome back to Easy Math. Today we're going to learn factorization of polynomials. We're going to learn how to factor polynomials using these methods: the highest common factor method, the middle term method, and the dots method, which stands for difference of two perfect squares. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Say we have, for example, 4x cubed minus 8x squared. Okay, so now we're going to factor this using the highest common factor method. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in brackets. I'm just going to extend this a bit, and I'm going to see what is the highest common factor between the coefficients 4 and 8. 4 is the highest common factor, and between the variables it's x squared. So we'll factor that outside the brackets. But we're not done. We need to divide the terms by the factor. So we'll divide each term by the factor, which is 4x squared. Okay? And we'll do on this side as well, 4x squared. Alright? So we can bring this down, 4x squared over here, we can bring down. And we can start here. So 4 and 4 divided by 4, they'll cancel. You're left with the variables. When you're dividing variables, you minus the exponents. So x cubed minus x squared will give you an answer of x. And here, you can divide by 4, goes once, by 4, twice, and there's a negative sign, so bring negative. So you will have 2 over here, and the variables will cancel out each other. And we can check if this answer is true by distributing our factor to each term. So we'll distribute over here. So we'll have here 4x, and then when you're multiplying the variables, the exponents, you add them. So it's 2 plus 1. So you have 4x cubed, and then distribute over here. We'll have minus 8. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8. And x squared, of course, and that is indeed true because that's the original polynomial. Okay, here's another example. Say we have 2x to the power 4 plus 16x cubed. Okay, feel free to pause this video and try this on your own. All right, so we're going to use the highest common factor method. And we see what is common between 2 and 16, which is 2, so we can factor out 2. And between the variables, x cubed is what is common, so we'll factor out x cubed. Okay, we're not done here. We need to divide everything by our factor, which is 2x cubed. So we'll divide by 2x cubed over here, and we'll divide by 2x cubed over here. And we'll have our factor still. Must always have our factor out of the brackets. We'll have our brackets, and then 2 divided by 2, they will cancel. 4 minus 3 is 1, so you only have x left on its own. And then we'll have 16 divided by 2. By 2, it goes once. By 2, it goes 8 times. So you're left with plus 8. And 3, x cubed and x cubed, they will cancel. So you're left with this. And this is your final answer, okay? Here's another one. Say we have x squared plus 5x plus 6. So here you notice that we have something that's a bit longer. It has 3 terms, so it is a trinomial. So we'll use our middle term technique, and I'm going to teach you this middle term technique, okay? So feel free to pause this video and try this on your own. So here we go. So the technique when you're trying to do this equation, you need to find the factors of the constant, which is the number that doesn't have a variable, which is 6, okay? And you need to list down all the factors, which will be 1, 6, 2, and 3, and that's all, okay? So one of the pair must add up and give you 5x, must give you the middle term. That's why, hence the name middle term method. If you add them up, it must give you 5. And if you multiply them, they must give you the answer of 6, which is your constant. So we're going to find which pair that gives us if you add them together, gives us an answer of 5. We see if we add 2 and 3, it gives us an answer of 5. And when we multiply 2 and 3, it gives us an answer of 6. So we can then hence use this pair, all right? So it's just basically saying, therefore, it's just basically saying x plus 2, this is positive 2, so we say plus 2, and x plus 3. And that's that. And we can also check the answer to see if it's true by foiling. So we'll take everything and we foil by each other. So this and this will go. So we have x times x, which is going to give you an answer of x squared, okay? And then x times 3, which is going to give you plus 3x. 2 times x is going to give you plus 2x. 2 times 3 is going to give you an answer of plus 6. We can add the like term, so you'll have x squared. 2 plus 3 is plus 5x, okay? And then plus 6. So this is correct. This is our final answer, and it is true, okay? Okay, let's try another one, all right? Let me just erase all this. Okay, say for example you have x squared plus 8x plus 15, okay? Feel free to pause this video and try this on your own, okay? So this is another example of the middle term method. So we'll do the same thing, which is we look at our constant and we write down all the factors of our constant, okay? So we can have 1 and 15, 3 and 5, and that is it, okay? So again, we have to look what pair added together will give me 8, which will give me the middle term, and when multiplied will give me the constant. And we see, oh, 3 and 5. If I add 3 and 5, I'll get 8, and 3 times 5 gives me an answer of 15. So we can there quickly go and just say x plus, because they are positive, plus 3, and x plus 5, okay? So this is our factored polynomial. This is this factored, okay? This is the answer, the final answer, okay? Okay, here's another example. Say we have 2x squared minus 9x minus 5, okay? So I hope you guys noticed that our leading coefficient, which is 2, is not 1, okay? So that means we cannot go with the normal, usual middle term method like we did in the previous exercises. So there's a different method, and I'm going to show you how to use it, okay? So let me just take that off for now. All right? Okay, and that method is taking the leading coefficient and multiplying it to the constant, all right? So 2 times negative 5, and that gives me an answer of negative 10, okay? So I can use that negative 10 to find something that will add up to negative 9, which is our middle term. So we'll write down the factors of negative 10. So we'll have 1 and we'll have negative 10. We can have 2 and negative 5, and we can, I'll just stop for there for now, okay? So I noticed that if I say 1 plus negative 10, it will give me an answer of negative 9. So hence we can say 2x squared. We leave everything else, but we're changing negative 9x. We leave everything else. And I'm going to take, I'll say plus 1x, which is just plus x, okay? Minus 10x, okay? So that is from the factors of negative 10. And it's the same as saying negative 9x minus 5, okay? So we're not done. We're not done here. We still need to continue to factor it. And we're going to use this method called grouping. So basically, I will put each two pairs in groups, all right? Okay? So here I have 2x squared plus x brackets. And then I'll put plus over here, and I'll put the minus in front. I'll put a plus and I'll put a minus over here. Minus 10x minus 5, okay? So now we can factor using highest common factor for each of the brackets, all right? So over here, what is common between 2x squared and x is x. So I can factor out x, and I'll be left here with 2, and the x will cancel because I divided everything by x. Remember, guys, divide everything by x. So the 2 will remain, and 2 minus 1 is just x, so it'll be 2x, and x divided by x will cancel, and you have to put the 1 there, so it'll be plus 1, okay? And then over here, I can factor between 10 and 5. I can factor out a positive 5. So you divide everything by 5 over here, divide by 5 over here, and I'll have negative 10 and 5 gives you an answer of negative 2, and don't forget the x, negative 2x, negative 5 and 5, they will cancel out each other, and it will just become negative 1, okay? So if you guys have noticed that something over here, this 2x plus 1 looks very similar to minus 2x minus 1. But we can make them look similar by using the sign change rule, okay? And I'll show you what that is in a moment. Sign change rule, okay? So we can use the sign change rule to make them look alike. And over here, because it's minus 2x and it's positive 2x, and here it's minus 1 and it's plus 1 and minus 1, I can factor out the negative 1. So I'll have this, I'll leave this the same. So it'll be x, 2x plus 1. And because I factor out minus 1, the 5 will change to negative 5. So you have negative 5, and negative 1 times minus 2x will give you an answer of positive 2x, and negative 1 times negative 1 will give you an answer of plus 1. So this looks more similar, and therefore I can say x minus 5, I'll put this in brackets, x minus 5. So we can factor x minus 5 because they have 2x plus 1 in common. So you're going to multiply by 2, you can put 2x plus 1 common. So x minus 5, they all have 2x plus 1 in common. So this is this factorized, okay? So this is our factor of this expression, okay? Another one, say for example we have 2x squared minus 3x minus 2, okay? Feel free to pause this video and try this on your own. So this is very similar to the one previously. So we see that our leading coefficient is not 1, but it's 2. So we have to do the other middle term technique, which is multiply the leading coefficient with the last constant. So 2 times negative 4 gives you an answer of negative 4. So you have negative 4 over here. And we're going to write down the factors of negative 4, and we're going to choose between the two to see which one's going to give us, which one's going to add up to negative 3. So if we write down the factors, we're going to have 1 and negative 4. We're going to have 2 and negative 2. And I see if I say 1 plus negative 4, I'll get an answer of negative 3. So we can put this into our trinomial. So it will be 2x squared. We leave everything as is. So you have 2x squared plus 1x from the 1, positive 1x, minus 4x, okay, and minus 2. This is the same as saying minus 3x. So now we can group them. We can group each two by each other, and we can work from there. So when we group them, we'll have over here, we'll have 2x squared plus 1x, and we see what is common between them. X is common between them, so we can factor out x, and here we'll have a positive sign, and we have minus 4x minus 2, and we see that 2 is common, so we can factor out 2, and you'll be left here with minus 4x. But we're not done. We need to divide everything by our factors. So we're going to divide by x. We're going to divide by x over here, and by here we're going to divide by 2, and we're going to divide by 2 over here. So you'll have a factor that must stay outside the brackets. You have x, So we're going to divide by our factor, which is x. So the 2 remain because there's nothing else to cancel it. So we have x, there's an imaginary 1. 2, you subtract the exponent when you're dividing. So 2 minus 1 is going to give you an answer of x. So it's going to be 2x. And then there's going to be a positive sign here. So you're going to, x and x will cancel. And you're left with just plus 1. Okay? And hereby divide by 2. When we divide 2 by minus 4x, we're going to have our factor, which is plus 2. And we're going to have minus 4 divided by 2 gives you an answer of minus 2. And then x will just remain there. And then you're left with minus 2 divided by 2. They will cancel, so you're left with minus 1. Okay? So now you, again with the previous one, we see that 2x plus 1 is very similar to minus 2x minus 1, but in order for them to be similar, we can use this sign change rule, okay? So we're going to factor out minus 1, okay guys? So we're gonna multiply everything by minus 1 in order for it to be positive. So we'll leave this the way it is. So we'll leave x plus 2x plus 1, and because we're multiplying by minus 1, this will become negative 2, and negative 1 times negative 2x is going to give you a positive answer, so it's going to be positive 2x, and negative 1 times negative 1 will give you positive 1. Okay, so now we can see that x and minus 2 have sorry, I forgot to put x over here, 2x plus 1 in common. So we can say, therefore, that x minus 2 can be factored as 2x plus 1. So this is the factored answer, okay? Before we start, I just want to give you the rule because this one has to do with dots. So remember guys, dot stands for difference of two perfect squares. So here's the formula. So we have a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b and a minus b. So this is the formula for dots if you want to factorize, okay? So say for example we have x squared minus 9, all right? So this is a perfect example of dots because first of all, x squared and 9 minus 9 are perfect squares and they are subtracting by each other. So it's the difference of these two perfect squares. So we can go ahead and use this formula, right? So we have the difference of two perfect squares because x is being squared and 9 is a perfect square itself, and they you're saying x squared minus 9, so it's the difference of these two perfect squares. So it's when we put it into the equation, we see that x squared is x, basically x times x. So the square root will be x, and then minus 9 is the same as saying 3 squared, which is basically saying plus 3. And we're going to have another x minus 3, okay? So if we have to check it, we can FOIL it to check if our answer is correct. So if we FOIL it, we'll have x times x gives you an answer of x squared. And then x times minus 3x gives you an answer of minus 3x. And then 3 times 3x will 3 times x will give you an answer of plus 3x. And 3 times negative 3 will give you an answer of minus 9. And we can add the like terms, so you'll have x squared. And then minus 3 plus 3, they will minus 3x plus 3x will cancel out, and you'll be left with negative 9, and this is true because we checked it, and this is our factored answer, okay? Here's another one. Say for example we have 25a squared, okay, minus 16b squared, okay. All right, so this is also another example of dots. So feel free to pause the video and try this on your own. And okay, so 25 is basically the same as saying it's 5 squared, okay, a squared minus 4 squared, because 4 squared is going to give you an answer of 16 minus b squared. So if we had to factorize it, it would be, according to our formula, you're going to have your brackets here, and we're going to say 5 minus 5a minus 4b, or plus 4b. Either way, it's still the same. You can say plus 4b, and on this side, you're going to have 5a minus 4b, okay? So that's the factorized answer, okay? So I'm just going to write it down here so you can see. So our final answer was 5a plus 4b, okay, and brackets 5a minus 4b, okay? So this is our final answer. This is the factorized answer of our part. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, share, and comment down below what you want to see next. Remember, practice makes perfect, and thank you guys so much for supporting me, and see you guys next time.